ABC. If this works, maybe this is what will happen next time. I think what's really important, though, is a reinforcement of democratic norms.
Hello, everybody.
Right, we've seen an attack on democratic norms, an attack on democratic
I just watched MTV interviewed on our public broadcasting.
press,
She said people walked in the...
You're in my heart.
Oh,
the fact that we're actually having debates.
you know, they just want something to be true that is never, never going to be true. Oh my God, I'm sweating. It's so warm.
Tidbit about tonight is that you have
forget what I look like. Just watch the debate.
And then you have the other who's attempting a non-consecutive run. Talk about the history of that.
Well, it's happened once successfully, back when mutton chops were a big deal. So again, I'm not sure that we're going to be able to repeat that.
We're stuck on C-SPAN too.
Running on their records and against their opponents' records, which
you can't make that any clearer, huh?
So you
Hi,
said
give me coffee.
Hi,
just kind of I woke up
right?
and I've been trying to like get myself ready. I didn't really have time to get ready, so
in 1888 by Benjamin Harrison.
This is pretty much it. This is pretty much as good as it gets.
So
hi, Michael. Mutton chop Spinnaker. Where the hell you been? They do need to make a comeback. Where are the mutton chops? Where are the mutton chops? Where are the mutton chops?
I think the way we know it works is to do it in 1892. I'm not sure what we can learn from 2024.
Peter Loge. We get the less exciting. I do have HBO pulled up with the preview.
People know Donald Trump from his reality television show, from his time tabloid headlines in New York,
hello, darling Michael. GP, thank you for coming back and waking up. And
new about these guys. We're going to watch to
I guess it's, I don't know what time it is. 9 minutes.
People who are watching are
9 minutes.
In the press.
9 minutes. That's right, everybody. 9 minutes, I said.
Out of touch and incoherent and
let me turn him down a little bit because I'm just like, I'm kind of like, oh, actually, they're not even live.
Numbers for debates are going up.
Okay, I'm turning him down a little bit because you've got captions. Don't panic. Okay?
And yes,
stop panicking.
Nobody's voting for president yet because these guys aren't actually the nominees yet. That doesn't happen until the conventions. I think the one in September will be more on track for early voting. One of the things we know from political science research is that debates may move some polling sometimes.
See, the thing is, I don't think polling's mutton chops and bowler hats. I really agree. I agree. Well, they practically are. They kind of are. Spin. Hey, Easily, how you doing? Oh, speaking of which, why is it you always make me think of relaxing easily?
Neither of these guys is going to win the election.
Why is that possible?
One could imagine.
I know, my hair looks like crap. Please forgive my appearance. Your hostess is not totally awake from her nap. Paul J.
Tonight.
Hello, Gal.
He's going to say that his opponent is old and out of touch, and
we're ready.
Probably see the Reagan.
We're ready for me money.
Opponent's youth and inexperience at issue.
I wonder, yeah, who else is a bit nervous? I think I am too. I wish I could try to do this to Spaces. I can't do to Spaces and I don't want to fuck up the broadcast. I'm so sorry. One of these days I'm going to figure out how all this technology works together. I know you probably can't see the bingo cards either, but maybe you can.
There's 3 years difference there.
That's true. The people who tend to talk about the
You're so welcome, Clark. I'm so glad you're here. You know what? Here's the thing, guys. If you're nervous about Biden, are you nervous about Biden because it's going to change the way you vote in November? No. So don't worry about it. Oh my God, J-Rance! That's not the song.
And now for something completely different.
Oh, wait a minute. No, that's not it. That's not it. Oh, wait, here we go. All right. Yeah, curious. I'm curious. Oh, rebuilding momentum? That's a good point. That's a really good point, Kathy, because he'll probably do okay. For his base, he'll do fantastic, okay? So let's just accept all the acceptable things, right? Hey, man, those were inspired. I don't know where all those things, it was great. It was so much fun to make them. Oh my God. Do you plan to talk over the debate part? My husband isn't as good at multi-listener, so I need to set up a TV or something. Probably not. Probably not, Gal. But definitely not bad to have a backup. But I probably won't be speaking over the debate. Speaking over this dude, but I'm not speaking over the debate. Do 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 do
President's
do.
ruled on what Americans
I wish he
want.
wasn't on
We'd
primetime either.
border along, we'd have a wall along
That was
the southern
really.
border, and
Please share the
we'd have a lot of gun
broadcast.
control.
Please like the
We have nothing.
broadcast.
What we want
Make
is
sure you're
somebody who can
subscribed.
represent and stand up for our values. This is me.
It's not
Here's what I want to
required.
project
Come over
myself, my
and
country
talk with
to be
us
in the long
on.
run.
Oh, I should put that up
And
there.
again,
Hold
those
on.
guys I think are going to want to tonight demonstrate
Do
their
do
sharp,
do
they're
do
on top
do
of the
do
facts,
do
they're
do
rational, they're reasonable,
do
they
do
get the
do
task
do
done,
do 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 do.
while simultaneously trying to go to the opponent.
Oh, and don't
and be the
forget.
worst caricature of themselves.
Make sure you smoke a
Oh,
sufficient
whoops! You
number of
can't
joints.
see it.
School
Damn
of
it.
Media and Public Affairs, George Washington University. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Many thanks. Always happy to join you.
Where is it? Let's see.
As we talked about, Peter Loge was talking about their policy, their records will come up.
Oh, yeah.
tonight,
Okay, here we go.
And voters will have a record for both of these candidates. That was an issue back in 2020 as well. Take a look at the two candidates talking about their political records at the first debate in
This is so dumb.
Cleveland. And again, these debates, these previous debates and the vice presidential debates from all cycles can be found if you go to our website, cspan.org.
Ah.
If you've missed any of them, you can find it there. Again, back in 2020, talking about
That's
their
good enough.
political records.
It's good enough, right?
Let
me see if I can find it.
I'm going to ask each of you, why should voters elect you president over your opponent?
Because there has never been an administration or president who has done more than I've done in a period of 3.5 years. And that's despite the impeachment hoax. And you saw what happened today
Hi,
with Hillary
Basket.
Clinton, where it was a whole big con job. But despite going through all of these things where I had to fight.
That's
both
me yelling at
sides and
you.
Behind me and above. There has
Thank you,
never been
Jay,
an
for the super
administration
chat. You're so
that's done
kind. You
what I've
don't need to
done.
do that.
The
I'm
greatest
so
before
grateful for
COVID,
that.
the
All that money
greatest
goes
economy in
into
history,
the
lowest
equipment
unemployment numbers.
and stuff that I
Everything
have.
was
So I
good.
really
Everything
appreciate
was
that.
going.
Thank
By
you
the
so
way,
much.
there was
Gal,
unity
stop
going to
it.
happen. People were
Wait.
calling me for the first time in years. They were calling
Everybody.
and they were saying, it's
Oh,
time
wait.
maybe, and then what happened? We
No.
got hit, but now we're building
No,
it back up again. They didn't have proper health care. He was a mess.
Thank you.
This president
Thank
will
you.
become weaker,
Jinx, sort of.
poorer,
Thank you.
more divided,
Thank you. Thank
more
you.
violent.
Do, 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 do. My nose is running now.
Vice President, we inherited a recession. I was asked to fix
Kathy.
it. I did. We
All
had
right,
to make
let's see.
people better in the
What
economy,
else? What else do we
and he
need?
caused the recession with regard to being weaker.
What was I gonna do?
Gone head to head with
Go look
Putin
at something.
and made it clear to him we're not going to take any of his stuff.
We're
He's
not
Putin's
gonna
puppet. He still
take
refuses to even
anymore.
say anything to Putin about the bounty on
God,
the
why
heads
is it
of
so
American
loud?
soldiers.
I mean, so
$7
soft.
$1 million.
Oh, I turned him down.
A look back at the 2020
There we go.
presidential debate, the first one that took place.
I don't know
in
why the screen's so
Cleveland. Now
fuzzy.
we
I
are
apologize.
just
Hi, Peace
about 2 minutes
Love.
away from tonight's
Peace
2024
love. 313
presidential
viewers across all the
debate. We'll try to
platforms.
get
We've
in.
got
David is
20
in
over here on
California,
YouTube. Come
waiting
on
for
over to
a
YouTube
third-party
and chat
candidate.
with the
There will
chat.
only
They're so
be
smart.
2 candidates on the stage tonight. David, what
I'll
do you
shut
wanna hear
up.
from
Don't
them?
worry.
I want to hear.
Give me coffee.
People in our country.
Let's see. Wait.
Man, because there's no way
Oh, wait. That's a good one. But wait, I got something else for you. Oh, no, that's not it.
Their rent, their
Where's my
food, their insurance, their clothes, and everything else to live, except
That's not it. Wait,
that the
hold on.
government's
Whoops.
probably starting up, going for.
I thought it was blue.
This isn't right. The border needs
Oh my
to be
God, it's
closed.
Nut Job
People
Calling
need to
Show.
be deported because America first.
All right, so immigration
Where
is
is it?
your issue, David, that you want to hear from these candidates. Who are you supporting in November?
Donald Trump.
All right, why?
Dang, where is it?
Because I feel that he loves America. He
Where's the
wants
kick-ass?
America to be number one, and he's for the American people. He's not for the globalists. He's not for the corporations. He's not out there letting people getting money in for himself and his family and stuff.
Oh my God, easily.
Sending money out to other countries.
Wait, hold on. Now I got to
All right,
catch up.
David, that was David supporting the former president. We're going to hear from you, all of you, again after tonight's debate. And we're now under a minute away from
No,
tonight's
wait, I
simulcast
need
of the
that. I
CNN
need my
presidential
music
debate in
first.
Atlanta, here on the C-SPAN networks. Again,
Where is
about
it?
90 minutes of debate expected tonight between President Biden and former President Trump. Following the debate, our coverage exits right here. We'll take your phone calls and your reaction on social media. We'll also be live with surrogates from the campaigns.
All right. Thank you. Easily? Wait a minute. We got to have something good for you.
We're live from Georgia, a key battleground state in the race for the White House. In just moments, the current U.S. president will debate the former U.S. president as their party's presumptive nominees, a first in American history. We want to welcome our viewers in the United States and around the world to our studios in Atlanta. This is the CNN presidential debate.
This debate is being produced by CNN and is coming to you live on CNN, CNN International, CNN.com, CNN Max, and Espanol. This is a pivotal moment between President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump in their rematch for the nation's highest office. Each will make his case to the American people with just over 4 months until election day. Good evening, I'm Dana Bass, anchor of CNN Inside Politics and co-anchor of
the lead and co-anchor of State of the Union.
Jen Griffin! Got you, girl.
On the left side of the screen.
Thank you, everyone. My goodness, how generous you've been. You don't even need to do that. You're so generous.
2 minutes to answer a question.
Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to shut up.
And rebuttals. An additional minute for follow-up, clarification, or response is at the moderator's discretion.
When it's time for a candidate to speak,
Ooh, that was fun. Thank you, everyone. My goodness, I'm so grateful to you.
The candidate interrupt when his microphone is muted. It will be difficult to understand for viewers at home. At the end of the debate, each candidate will get 2 minutes for closing statements. There is no studio audience. Pre-written notes, prompts, or contact
I am on
with
C-SPAN.
campaign staff are not permitted during the
Whatever.
debate. By
Thank you,
accepting our
everyone.
invitation to
Kathy.
debate both candidates and their campaigns,
You get the music
agreed
box.
to accept these rules.
Now, please welcome the 46th President of the United States, Joe Biden.
Stop! Woo!
Folks, how are you? Great to be here. Thank you.
And please welcome the 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump. Gentlemen, thanks so much for being here. Let's begin the debate, and let's start with the issue that voters consistently say is their top concern, the economy. President Biden, inflation has slowed, but prices remain high. Since you took office, the price of essentials has increased. For example, a basket of groceries that cost $100 then now costs more than $120. And typical home prices have jumped more than 30%. What do you say to voters who feel they are worse off under your presidency than they were under President Trump?
We got to take a look at what I was left when I became president and what Mr. Trump left me. We had an economy that was in free fall. The pandemic was so badly handled. Many people were dying. All he said was, it's not that serious. Just inject a little bleach into your arm. You'll be all right. The economy collapsed. There were no jobs. Unemployment rate rose to 15%. It was terrible. And so what we had to do is try to put things back together again. And that's exactly what we began to do. We created 15,000 new jobs. We brought out the position where we have 800,000 new manufacturing jobs. But there's more to be done. There's more to be done. Working class people are still in trouble. I come from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I come of a household where the kitchen table things weren't able to be met during the month. It was a problem. Price of eggs, the price of gas, the price of housing, the price of a whole range of things. That's why I'm working so hard to make sure I deal with those problems. And we're going to make sure that we reduce the price of housing. We're going to make sure we build 2 million new units. We're going to make sure we cap rents so corporate greed can't take over. The combination, what I was left with in corporate greed, is the reason why we're in this problem right now. In addition to that, we're in a situation where if you take a look at all that was done in his administration, he didn't do much at all. By the time he left, things were in chaos, literally chaos. And so we put things back together. We created, I said, those jobs. We make sure we had a situation where we brought down the price of prescription drugs, which is a major issue for many people, to $15 for a insulin shot as opposed to $400. No senior has to pay more than $200 for any drug, all the drugs they can include beginning next year. And the situation is and we're going to make that available to everybody, to all Americans. So we're working to bring down the price around the kitchen table.
Seems okay to me.
Thank you. President Trump?
We have the greatest economy in the history of our country. We have never done so well. Everybody was amazed by it. Other countries were copying us. We got hit with COVID. And when we did, we spent the money necessary so we wouldn't end up in a Great Depression, the likes of which we had in 1929. By the time we finished, so we did a great job. We got a lot of credit for the economy, a lot of credit for the military, and no wars, and so many other things. Everything was rocking good. But the thing we never got the credit for, and we should have, is getting us out of that COVID mess. He created mandates that was a disaster for our country. But other than that, we had given them back a country where the stock market actually was higher than pre-COVID, and nobody thought that was even possible. The only jobs he created are for illegal immigrants and bounce-back jobs, a bounce back from the COVID. He has not done a good job. He's done a poor job, and inflation's killing our country. It is absolutely killing us.
Actually, we looked at inflation this morning. It's okay. It's not great, but it's okay.
In the world. He's the only one who thinks that, I think. I don't know anybody else who thinks he had the greatest economy in the world. And, you know, the fact of the matter is that we find ourselves in a situation where his economy, he rewarded the wealthy. He had the largest tax cut in American history, $2 trillion. He raised a deficit larger than any president has in any one term. He's the only president other than Herbert Hoover who's lost more jobs than he had when he began, since Herbert Hoover. The idea that he did something that was significant. And the military, you know, when he was president, they were still killing people in Afghanistan. He didn't do anything about that. When he was president, we were still finding ourselves in a position where you had a notion that we were this safe country. The truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
President Trump, I want to follow up if I can.
Am I allowed to respond to him?
Well, I'm going to ask you a follow-up. You can do whatever you want with the minute that we give you. I want to follow up. You want to impose a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
It's not going to drive them
it's
higher.
Anus
it's going
mouth.
to cause countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others, in all fairness to China. It's going to just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things. But he made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs. And the jobs went down, and then they bounced back. And he's taking credit for bounce-back jobs. You can't do that. He also said he inherited 9% inflation. No, he inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months. And then it blew up under his leadership because they spent money like a bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing, and they don't know what they were doing. It was the worst, probably the worst administration in history. There's never been. And as far as Afghanistan is concerned, I was getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with strength, with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
President Trump, over the last 8 years,
objectively not
both
true.
of your administrations, the national
Objectively
debt
not.
soared to record highs. And according to a new nonpartisan analysis,
I bet.
President Trump, your administration approved $8.4 trillion in new debt, while so far, President Biden, you've approved $4.3 trillion in new debt. So, former President Trump, many of the tax cuts that you signed into law are set to expire next year. You want to extend them and go even further, you say. With the U.S. facing trillion-dollar deficits and record debt, why should top earners and corporations pay even less in taxes than they do now?
Because the tax cuts spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much better than just about any other country.
That's a lie.
But we spurred, that tax spurred. Now, when we cut the taxes, as an example, the corporate tax was cut down to 21% from 39%, plus beyond that. We took in more revenue with much less tax, and companies were bringing back trillions of dollars back into our country. The country was going like never before, and we were ready to start paying down debt. We were ready to start using the liquid gold right under our feet. the oil and gas right under our
Liquid
feet.
gold is on the
We
bingo.
were going to have something that nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID. We did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we came up with. We gave him something great. Remember, more people died under his administration, even though we had largely fixed it. More people died under his administration than our administration, and we were right in the middle of it, something which a lot of people don't like to talk about. But he had far more people dying in his administration. He did the mandate, which is a disaster, mandating it. The vaccine went out. He did a mandate on the vaccine, which is the thing that people most objected to about the vaccine. And he did a very poor job, just a very poor job. And I will tell you, not only poor there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country. They don't respect our leadership. They don't respect the United States anymore. We're like a third world nation between weaponization of his election, trying to go after his political opponent.
Now someone else is
all
speaking
of the things
kind
he's
of
done,
quickly,
we've become like
isn't
a third
he?
world nation.
Someone's
kind of
rambling.
The damage he's done to our country. And I'd love to ask him, and will, why he allowed millions of people to come in here from prisons, jails, and mental institutions to come into our country.
Mental
and destroy
institutions.
our
Oh,
country.
insane asylums is in there, I think, not mental institutions.
Later in this block, President Biden, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question about the national debt.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a 4-year period, number one. Number two, that $2 trillion tax cut benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. Billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation
I got to find
where
something that'll go on
they,
top
in
of it.
fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24% or 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 million, billion dollars, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID. Excuse me, with dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare. They're putting them on Social Security. They're going to destroy Social Security. This man is going to single-handedly destroy Social Security. These millions and millions of people coming in, they're trying to put them on Social Security. He will wipe out Social Security. He will wipe out Medicare. So he was right in the way he finished that sentence. And it's a shame. What's happened to our country in the last 4 years is not to be believed. Foreign countries, I'm friends with a lot of people, they cannot believe what happened to the United States of America. We're no longer respected. They don't like us. We give them everything they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. What we're doing for other countries, and they do nothing for us. What this man has done is absolutely criminal.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
This is the
That didn't
first
even make
presidential
sense.
election since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. This morning, the court ruled on yet another abortion case, temporarily allowing emergency abortions to continue in Idaho, despite that state's restrictive ban. Former President Trump, you take credit for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned the issue of abortion to the states.
Correct.
However, the federal government still plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion pill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question that you're asking, complex but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives. Everybody wanted it back. Religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted. Now, 10 years ago or so, they started.
Does he
talking
know
about
the
how
other
many
stuff
weeks and
he
how many this
talks
and
about
getting
is
into other
recorded?
things.
Does
But
he know
every
that what he
legal
says
scholar
outside of here is
throughout
recorded?
the world, the
I
most
think,
respected,
right? He knows that,
wanted it
right?
brought back to the states. I did that. Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that was an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing. Texas is different. Florida is different. But they're all making their own decisions right now. And right now, the states control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in
Good
the
one, Peace Love.
exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But you have to get elected also. And because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth.
That's not true.
If you look at the
That's not
former
true.
governor of Virginia,
That's not
he
true.
was willing to do this. He said, we'll put the baby aside and we'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby. What happened is we
That's
brought
not
it
true.
back to the states, and the country is
That's
now
not true.
coming together on this issue.
Hi,
It's been
Dragon.
a great thing.
Thank you. President Biden?
It's been a terrible thing, what you've done. The fact is that the vast majority of constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided. Supported Roe. And that's this idea that they were all against it is just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the state should be able to have it. We're in a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor and have him decide on what your circumstances are, whether you need help. The idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states, let each state have a different rule. Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant
Good point, GP.
coming in, they talk about that. But here's the deal: there's a lot of young women who are being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses, brothers and sisters, it's just ridiculous, and they can do nothing about it. And they try to arrest them when they cross state lines.
Thank you.
There have been many young women murdered by the same people he allows to come across our border.
Oh,
We
switch.
have a border that's the
Biden
most
crime,
dangerous
that's on the
place
bingo
anywhere
card,
in the world,
too.
considered the most dangerous place anywhere in the world. And he opened it up, and these killers are coming into our country. And
It's
they
to
are
let 'em
raping
flow,
and
I think,
killing
Lee.
women. And it's a terrible thing. As far as the abortion is concerned, it is now back with the states. The states are voting. In many cases, it's frankly a very liberal decision. In many cases, it's the opposite. But they're voting, and it's bringing it back to the vote of the people, which is what everybody wanted, including the founders, if they
No,
knew
that's
about
not.
this issue,
No.
which frankly they didn't. But they would have.
They
done-
didn't have
everybody
abortions
wanted
back
it
then?
brought
Is that
back.
what he
Ronald
just said?
Reagan wanted it brought back. He wasn't able to get it. Everybody wanted it brought back, and many presidents had tried to get it back. I was the one to do it. And again,
No,
this
no.
gives it the vote of the people, and that's where they wanted
No,
it. Every
that's not
legal
where we
scholar
wanted it.
that
No,
way.
we didn't.
Staying on
Stop
the topic
talking
of
for us.
abortion, President Biden, 7 states, I'll let you do that. This is the same topic. 7 states have no legal restrictions on how far into a pregnancy a woman can obtain an abortion. Do you support any legal limits on how late a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy?
I supported Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. The first time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between the doctor, between the woman and the state. The idea that the politicians, that the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about women's health is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician should be making that decision. A doctor should be making those decisions. That's how it should be run. That's what you're going to do. And if I'm elected, I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade.
So that
Fuck
means
yeah.
he can take the life of the baby in the 9th month.
That's not-
and even after birth. Because
not how
some
it works.
states, Democrat run, take
It's not
it
how
after
it works.
birth. Again, the former
That is
governor of
not how it
Virginia,
works.
Put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it.
That's
so he's
not true.
willing
Please,
to,
this
as we
is
say, rip the
disinformation.
baby
Oh
out of
my
the womb
God.
in the 9th month and
That's
kill the
not
baby.
true.
Nobody wants that to happen. Democrat or Republican, nobody wants it to happen.
That is simply not true.
Thank you.
That Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only if a woman's life is in danger, she's going to die. That's the only circumstance in which that can happen. But we are not for late-term abortion, period. period.
Under Roe v. Wade, you
Thank
have
you.
late-term abortion.
No, you
can
do
whatever
because you have
want, depending on
late-term
the state. You
abortions,
can do
not whatever you want.
We don't think that's
That's
a good
not
thing.
true.
We think it's a radical thing.
You're an
we think
idiot.
The Democrats are the radicals, not the Republicans.
For 51 years, that was the law. 51 years, constitutional scholarship said it was the right way to go. 51 years, and it was taken away because this guy put very conservative members on the Supreme Court. He takes credit for taking it away. What's he going to do? What's he going to do, in fact, if the MAGA Republicans, he gets elected, and the MAGA Republicans control the Congress, and they pass a universal ban on abortion, period, across the board at 6 weeks or 7 or 8 or 10 weeks, something very, very conservative. Is he going to sign that bill? I'll veto it. He'll sign it.
Thank you.
Let's turn now to the issue of immigration and border security. President Biden, a record number of migrants have illegally crossed the southern border on your watch. Overwhelming border states and overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases causing real safety and security concerns. Given that, why should voters trust you to solve this crisis?
Because we worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that, it made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of asylum officers. By the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position. In addition to that, we found ourselves in a situation where when he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages, making sure the families were separated. That's not the right way to go. What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban.
Pass the bipartisan legislation. He told the Congress to not pass it.
Do with more border patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
Kathy, it's not going to change the way you vote.
I don't think he knows what he said either. Look, we had the safest border in the history of our country. The border, all he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest
insane asylums is on the card
coming into our country right now. All terrorists, all over the world,
they
not
have
just
terrorists
in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere, all over the world. They're pouring in, and this guy just left it open. And he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation.
It's not
I
open.
said close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency.
Yeah, totally. I totally get it. I don't think it'll be apathetic.
Great. And by the way, who endorsed
We're going to do
me
this,
for president,
Kathy.
But I won't say that. But they
We're
endorsed me for
going to
president.
fuck this up, man. We're going to make it happen.
Just speak to him. But look, we had the safest border in history.
Thank you, Lee.
Now we have the worst border in history. There's never been anything like it. And people are dying all over the place, including the people that are coming up in
Thank you,
caravans.
President Trump. President Biden?
The only terrorist who's done anything crossing the border is one who came along and killed under his administration,
We have almost 1,400 viewers. Oh, my goodness. Thank you, everyone. Wow.
Killed 3 American soldiers. That's the only terrorist that's there. I'm not saying no terrorist ever got through, but the idea.
Check your voter registration.
We're welcoming these people. That's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said. Once again, he's exaggerating. He's lying.
President Trump, staying on the topic of immigration, you've
I had
said
to take
that
a
you're
picture.
going to carry out, quote, the largest domestic deportation operation in American history, unquote. Does that mean that you will deport every undocumented immigrant in America, including those who have jobs, including those whose spouses are citizens, and including those who have lived here for decades? And if so, how will you do it?
Just 1 second. He said we killed 3 people. The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the 2 greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world. And it had a huge impact on everything, not just border, on everything. He's the one that killed people with the bad water, including hundreds of thousands of people dying and also killing our citizens when they come in. We
I don't know. I'm sorry.
Right
Peace,
now
love, and
in a
fast
rat's nest. They're killing our people in New York, in California, in every state in the union, because we don't have borders anymore. Every state is now a border. And because of his ridiculous, insane, and very stupid policies, people are coming in and they're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime. They're
Okay,
killing
good
our
enough. It's on
citizens
the
at a level
fucking
that
thing.
We've never seen before.
I
And
can't
you're
play the
reading
musically,
it like
but
these three incredible young girls over the last few days.
Thank you.
One of them, I just spoke to the mother, and they just had the funeral for this girl, 12 years old. This is horrible what's taken place. What's taken place in our country, we're literally an uncivilized country now. He doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't know. He opened the borders. Nobody's ever seen anything like. And we have to get a lot of these people out, and we have to get them out
reminding
fast
him that
because
Tiffany
they're gonna destroy
exists.
our country.
I just want.
take a look at
I'm
where
Team
they're living.
Tiffany.
They're living in luxury hotels.
I'm standing up for Tiffany.
In New York City and other places.
What
Our
about
veterans are on
Tiffany?
the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans. He doesn't care. He doesn't like the military
Really?
at all.
Oh,
And he doesn't care
oh,
about our veterans. Nobody
oh,
been worse.
shit.
I had the highest approval rating for veterans taking care of the VA.
If what's his name walks in right now, I'm going to shit my pants.
Joyce,
I'm telling you right now. What's that guy?
All of the
Kelly?
different things I approved, they abandoned. We had by far the highest, and now it's down in less than half because he's done all these great things that we did. And I think he did it just because I approved it, which is crazy. But he has killed so many people at our border by
Thank you,
allowing
President Trump.
all of these people to come in.
President
and it's
Biden?
a very sad day in America.
President Biden, you have the mic.
Every single thing he said is a
Can
lie.
abide
Every single
migrant
one.
crime
For
for
example,
time. Crime
veterans are a
if
hell of a lot better
migrants
off
can
since they
abide
passed the
mimes.
Pact Act. 1 million of them now have
Crime and
insurance, and
mimes.
their families have it. Their families have it because what happened, whether it was Agent Orange or burn pits, they're all being covered now. And he opposed, his group opposed that. We're also in a situation where we have great respect for veterans. My son spent a year in Iraq, living right next to one of those burn pits, came back with stage 4 glioblastoma. I was recently in France for D-Day, and I spoke all about those heroes that died. I went to the World War II cemetery, World War I cemetery he refused to go to. He was standing with his 4-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
President Trump?
First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans? Because nobody's taken better care. I'm so glad this came up, and he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We have 19 people.
Thank you, Scott. You don't need to do that. Thank you so much.
It was
We'll
made
play
up
songs
by him,
after
just
for you.
like Russia was made up. Just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up. Just like the new thing with the 16
Oh, he's doing the
economists
nose
are
thing.
talking. It's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It
Come on.
wasn't. That
Laptop
came
from
his
hell.
son Hunter.
Come on.
It
Come on.
wasn't Russia
Come on.
disinformation. He made up the suckers and losers, so he should apologize.
Now we
to
know
me
it's
right
true,
now.
Kathy.
4-star general standing to your side who was on your staff who said you said it, period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We've done more for veterans than any president has in American history.
Hi, Sassy.
And they
It's
now
nice to
are
see
their
you.
family. The only sacred obligation we have as a country is to care for our veterans when they come home and their families and equip them when they go to war. That's what we're doing. That's what the VA is doing now. They're doing more for veterans than ever before in our history.
All right, thank you so much.
Let's move to the topic of foreign policy. I want to begin with Russia's war against Ukraine, which is now in its third year. Former President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he'll only end this
Almost
war
1,500
if Russia
viewers
keeps the
across all
Ukrainian
platforms.
territory it has
This
already
is crazy.
claimed,
Thank you so
and
much.
Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO. Are Putin's terms acceptable to you?
First of
Media
all,
literacy.
our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy.
Check
They
your
can't
voter
stand him.
registration.
They think he's the worst commander-in-chief, if that's what you call him, that we've ever had. They can't stand him. So let's get that straight. And they like me more than just about any of them. And that's based on every single bit of information. As far as Russia and Ukraine, if we had a real president, the president that knew, that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded
I do like her
Ukraine.
outfit.
A
Yeah.
lot of people are dead right now, much more than people know. You know, they talk about numbers. You can
Here
double
comes the
those
smile.
numbers, maybe triple those numbers. He did nothing to stop it. In fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I'll tell you what happened. He was so bad
Media
with
baron.
Afghanistan. It was such a horrible,
I don't care if they're bots. I love all my bots.
embarrassing moment in the history of our country. That when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned, and so he's got no love lost. But he should have fired those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country,
everybody
Afghanistan,
bingo.
where we left billions
Everybody
of dollars
bingo at the
of
same
equipment
time.
behind.
Yeah,
we
why
lost
not?
13 beautiful soldiers and 38
The more
soldiers
the
were
merrier.
obliterated. And by the way, we left people behind too. We left American citizens behind. When Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take this was his dream. I talked to him about it, his dream. The difference is he never would have invaded Ukraine. Never. Just like Israel would have never been invaded in a million years by Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for anything. No money for terror. That's why you had no terror at all during my administration. This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
President Biden?
What?
I've never heard so much malarkey in my whole life. Look,
Malarkey's on there too.
We're in a situation where, let's take the last point first. Iran attacked American troops, caused brain damage for a number of these troops, and he did nothing about it. Recently, not when he was president. They attacked.
If you're not already hammered by now, you're not playing the game right. Okay? All right?
The attack took place, number one.
Catch up. Come on.
Number two, we got over 100,000 Americans and others out of Afghanistan during that airlift. Number three, we found ourselves in a situation where if you take a look at what Trump did,
You better be fucking 3 sheets to the wind on a good day.
He told Trump, do whatever
Okay?
you want.
Come on.
and do
That's right.
whatever
Hit the
you
like.
want.
Robert
And
told
that's
you.
exactly what Trump did.
Don't forget the soother list. You got to get some fun. You got to get something on. Your drink on, your smoke on. I don't give a shit.
Kyiv in 5 days, remember? Because it's part of the old Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish. Kyiv. And he, in fact, didn't do it at all. He wasn't able to get it done.
I don't know. I know no other way.
He lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
President Trump, as
I never
come back
said
to you
that.
for 1 minute, I just want to go back to my original question, which is, are Putin's terms acceptable to you? Keeping the territory in Ukraine?
Acceptable. No, they're not acceptable. But look, this is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, he led everybody along. He's given $200 billion
That's why it's
now or
soothed.
more
Whatever
to
soothes you,
Ukraine.
Tom.
He's given $200
Whatever
billion.
soothes you.
That's a lot of
up
money.
to
I
you.
don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every time that Zelensky
dancer's
comes to this
choice.
country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever. And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking
Yes,
anything.
Claire.
I'm only saying the money that we're spending on this war, and we shouldn't be spending, it should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect before I take office on January 20th. I'll have that war settled. People being killed so needlessly, so stupidly, and I will get it settled, and I'll get it settled fast before I take office.
President Biden, you have a minute.
The fact is that Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people. And he has made one thing clear. He wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire, not just a piece. He
And
wants
an
all of
edible?
Ukraine.
You're a
That's what he
badass.
wants. And then
You're
you
a
think he'll
badass,
stop
Scott.
there? Do you think he'll stop when if he takes Ukraine? What do you think happens to Poland? What do you think of Belarus? What do you think happens to those NATO countries? And so if you want a war, you ought to find out what he's going to do, because if in fact he does what he says and walks away.
I think Joe's
by the
doing
way,
fantastic.
All that money
I am
we
all
give Ukraine
in.
are from weapons
He's
we make
44
here in the
minutes
United
in.
States. We give
He's
them the
doing
weapons,
great. Or
not the
so
money at this
about
point.
half an hour, I
And
guess.
and our NATO allies have produced as much funding for Ukraine as we have. That's why we're strong.
Thank you. Moving on to the Middle East. In October, Hamas attacked Israel, killing more than 1,000 people and taking hundreds of hostages. Among those held and thought to still be alive are 5 Americans. Israel's response has killed thousands of Palestinians and created a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. President Biden, you've put forward a proposal to resolve this conflict, but so far Hamas has not released the remaining hostages, and Israel is continuing its military offensive in Gaza. So what additional leverage will you use to get Hamas and Israel to end the war? You have 2 minutes.
Number one, everyone from the United Nations Security Council straight through to the G7 to the Israelis and Netanyahu himself have endorsed the plan I put forward. Endorsed the plan I put forward, which has 3 stages to it. The first stage is trade the hostages for a ceasefire. Second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas. Number one, they're the only ones standing out. We're still pushing hard to get them to accept. In the meantime, what's happened? In Israel, we're finding that the only thing I've denied Israel was 2,000-pound bombs. They don't work very well in populated areas. They kill a lot of innocent people. We're providing Israel with all the weapons they need and when they need them. And by the way, I'm the guy that organized the world against Iran when they had a full-blown intercontinental ballistic missile attack on Israel. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it just stopped. We saved Israel. We are the biggest producer of support for Israel of anyone in the world. And so they're 2 different things. Hamas cannot be allowed to be continued. We continue to send our experts and our intelligence people as to how they can get Hamas like we did bin Laden. You don't have to do it. And by the way, they've been greatly weakened, Hamas, greatly weakened, and they should be. They should be eliminated. But you've got to be careful for using certain weapons among population centers.
Thank you, Joe.
Just going back to Ukraine for 1 second. We have an ocean
I have something to say.
us. The European nations together have spent $100 billion or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them and say, you got to put up your money like I did with NATO? I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General of NATO said Trump did the most incredible job I've ever seen. They wouldn't have any. They were going out of business. We were spending almost 100% of the money was paid by us. He didn't do that. He's getting all. You got to ask these people to put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them. As far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one who wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very
He said,
bad
sir,
Palestinian.
with
He's
tears
a
in
weak
his
one.
eyes? Did he have tears in his eyes?
I've never heard so much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO. You're going
I
to
thought he was going to say bullshit.
He's going to pull out of NATO. The idea that we have our strength lies in our alliances as well. It may be a big ocean, but we're ever able to avoid a war in Europe, a major war in Europe? What happens if, in fact, you have Putin continue to go into NATO? We have an Article 5 agreement. Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about, go ahead. Let Putin go in and control Ukraine and then move on to Poland and other places. You see what happens then. He has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50 other nations around the world to support Ukraine, including Japan and South Korea, because they understand that this kind of dislocation has a serious threat to the whole world peace. No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained just to Europe.
President Trump, just to follow up, would you support the creation of an independent Palestinian state in order to achieve peace in the region?
I'd have to see, but before we do that, the problem we have is that we spend all the money. So they kill us on trade. I made great trade deals with the European nations.
With the Palestinians?
Because if you add them up, they're about the same size economically. Their economy is about the same size as the United States. And they were no cars, they don't want anything that we have, but we're supposed to take their cars, their food, their everything, their agriculture. I changed that. But the big thing I changed
I think he's doing fine. For me, he's doing fine.
That he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's right about this, I said, no, I'm not going to support NATO if you don't pay. They asked me that question. Would you guard us against Russia at a very secret meeting of the 28 states at that time, nations at that time? And I said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next months.
The next
now
day,
we're in the same position.
They changed.
Bills.
They changed their
former President Trump,
formulation
I want to ask you about
overnight.
January 6, 2021, after you rallied your supporters that day, Some of them stormed the Capitol
You know,
to
agreed,
stop the
GP.
constitutionally
There's a
mandated
place.
counting of electoral votes.
You know how I am.
As president, you swore
I'm into
an oath
any.
to, quote, preserve, protect, and defend, unquote, the Constitution.
Oh wait, I'm gonna have to
What do you say
move
to
back.
voters
No,
who
he
believe
hasn't.
that you violated that oath through
I
your
don't think I
actions
have.
and inaction on January 6th and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th. On January 6th, we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent.
We had
On January
COVID.
6th, we had the lowest taxes ever.
That's
we had the
not
lowest
true.
regulations ever. On January 6th,
ended
we
up
were
with train
respected all over
derailments.
the world. All over the world, we were
No, we weren't.
respected.
They were laughing
and
at
then
us.
he comes in, and we're now laughed at. We're like a bunch of stupid people.
No,
What
just because
happened to
you
the
are
United
still allowed to
States'
walk around.
reputation under this man's leadership is horrible, including weaponization, which I'm sure at some point you'll be talking about, where he goes after his political opponent because he can't beat him fair and square.
You have 80 seconds left. My question was, what do you say to those voters who believe that you violated your constitutional oath through your actions and inaction on January 6, 2021, and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I didn't say that to anybody. I said peacefully and patriotically. And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker, they say.
A filmmaker?
Oh, no, it's my
filmmaker?
responsibility. I was responsible for this because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard.
No, you didn't.
And she turned them down. And the mayor of,
Oh my God.
in writing, by the way, the mayor, in writing, turned it down, the mayor of D.C. They turned it down. I offered
Lying.
10,000 because I could see. I
He's
had
lying. He did that
virtually
thing.
nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech. I could see what was happening. Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there. And I said, you know what? There's a lot of people coming. You could feel it. You could feel it too, and you could feel it. And I said, they ought to have some National Guard or whatever. And I offered it to her. And she now admits that she turned it down. And it was the same day she was, I don't know, she can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said, I take full responsibility for January 6th.
President Biden?
Look, he encouraged those folks to go up to Capitol Hill, number one. I sat in the dining room off the Oval Office. He sat there for 3 hours watching, begging, being begged by his vice president and a number of his colleagues on the Republican side as well to do something, to call for a stop, to end it. Instead,
Look at the mouth.
He talked about these people being
He is
patriots
pissed.
and
He's
great
pissed.
patrons of America. In fact, he says he'll now forgive them for what they've done. They've been convicted. He says he wants
J6
to commute their
hostages.
sentences.
He's going to
and
be up
say
next.
that-
He's
no,
Radpod's up next
he went
after
to
this.
Every single court in the nation. I don't know how many cases, scores of cases, including the Supreme Court, and they said, no, this guy is responsible for doing what was done. He did do a damn thing, and these people should be in jail, and they should be the ones who are being held accountable. And he wants to let them all out. And now he says if he loses again, such a whiner that he is, that it could be a bloodbath.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
What they've done
Good
to
ending.
some people that are so innocent, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. What you have done, how you've destroyed the lives of so many people. When they ripped down Portland, when they ripped down many other cities. You go to Minnesota.
Yeah, well, that was-
Minneapolis,
who was
what they've
president
done
then?
there
Who was
with
president?
The fires all over the city. If I didn't bring in the
yeah,
National
you
Guard,
were.
that city would have been destroyed. When you look at all of the, they took over big chunks of Seattle. I was all set to bring in the National Guard. They heard that, they saw them coming, and they left immediately. What he
It's
said
not true.
about this whole subject
Lying.
is so off.
Anus mouth.
Peacefully patriotic. One other thing. The Unselect Committee, which is basically two horrible Republicans that are all gone now, out of office, and Democrats, all Democrats, they destroyed and deleted all of the information they found.
Thank
Because they found
you.
out we
Thanks,
were
Gimme
right.
Coffee. Look
We
for
were
Jim
right.
Stewartson
And they deleted
on
and destroyed
Twitter.
all of the information. They should go to jail for that. If a Republican did that, they'd go to jail.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, I want to give you a minute.
The only person on this stage is a convicted felon is the man I'm looking at right now. And the fact of the matter is, what he's telling you is simply not true. The fact is that there was no effort on his part to stop what was going on up in Capitol Hill. And all those people, every one of those who were convicted, deserves to be convicted.
EO 13848.
The idea that they didn't kill somebody, just went in and
Tom,
broke down
bingo.
doors, broke the windows, occupied offices, turned over desks, turned them over statues. The
Thanks,
idea
Claire.
that those people are patriots? Come on. When I asked him the first two debates we had, first time around, I said, will you denounce the Proud Boys? He said, no, I'll tell them to stand by.
The Proud Boys are on there too. Oh my God, this is a great bingo card. I did a pretty good job.
We denounce the people we're talking about now. We denounce the people who attacked that Capitol. What are you going to do?
I'm going to give you a minute, President Trump, for a follow-up.
He's a little
question
tiny
I
hand.
have. After a jury convicted you of 34 felonies last month, you said if reelected, you would, quote, have every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the Select Committee on January 6th going to jail. Your main political opponent is standing on stage with you tonight. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country
1,700
successful
viewers
again, 'cause
across
right now
all
it's a failing
platforms.
nation.
Thank you so
My
much,
retribution is
everyone,
going
for
to be
sharing the
success.
broadcast
But
media
when
literacy.
He talks about a convicted felon. His son is a convicted felon at a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably numerous other times. Should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department let the statute of limitations lapse on the most important things.
I think that
But he
was
could be a
yours,
convicted
but
felon as soon as
okay.
he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things. All of the death
Which
caused
ones?
at the border, telling the
Really?
Ukrainian
What
people
deaths?
that we're going to want $1 billion or you change the prosecutor. Otherwise,
What?
you're not getting $1 billion.
Where's
If
that
I ever
coming
said
from?
that, that's quid pro quo.
You did say that.
We're not going to do anything. We're not going to give you $1 billion unless you change your prosecutor having to do with the son. This man is a criminal. This man. You're
What?
lucky.
He didn't
You're
say any
lucky.
of that.
I did nothing wrong. We'd have a system that was rigged and disgusting. I did nothing wrong.
Thank you, President Trump.
Oh, he's
President Biden,
very
you
upset.
have said, I'm coming right to you, sir. You want to respond? Go ahead. I'll give you a minute to respond.
The idea
Agree, Dragon.
that I did anything wrong relative to what you're talking about is outrageous. It's simply a lie, number one. Number two, the idea that you have a right to seek retribution against any American just because you're president is wrong. It's simply wrong. No president's ever spoken like that before. No president in our history has spoken like that before. Number three, the crimes that you are still charged with, and think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of things, of having sex with a porn star on the night while your wife was pregnant? I mean, what are you talking about? You have the morals of an alley cat.
Give you a minute, sir.
I didn't have sex with a porn star, number one. Number two, that was a case that was started and moved. They moved a high-ranking official, a DOJ, into the Manhattan DA's office to start that case. That case is going to be appealed and won. We had a very terrible judge, a horrible judge, Democrat.
Oh, the judge!
The prosecutor were all high-ranking Democrats,
I'm
appointed
just really
people,
happy about the
and
fucking
both the
bingo.
civil
Okay.
and the criminal.
A
He
porn star's
basically
not
went
on the
after
bingo
his
card.
political opponent.
I didn't get 'em
because
all.
He thought it was going to
I didn't get
damage
'em
me.
all.
But when the public found out about these cases, because they understand it better than he does, he has no idea what these cases are. But when,
You
when they
don't.
found out about these cases, you know what
My
they
whole
did?
card's
My poll
full.
numbers went up way up. You know that because you're
I
reporting
guess it's
it.
like a
And
blackout
we took
bingo.
in more money in the last 2 weeks than we've ever taken in the
He's
history
lying.
of any
I love
campaign.
it.
I
I
don't think any
can't.
campaign has ever taken. Hundreds of millions of dollars came pouring in because the public knows it's a scam and it's a guy that's
You had
after his
50
political
million
opponent 'cause
from
he
the
can't
guy
win fair
who
and
was
square.
one
Thank you, President
person.
Trump. President
Fuck
Biden,
off.
You have said, quote, Donald Trump and his MAGA
You got 50
Republicans
million in
are
one
determined
gift.
to destroy American democracy. Do you believe that the tens of millions of Americans who are likely to vote for President
morals
Trump
of an
will
alley
be
cat.
voting against American democracy?
The more they know about what he's done, yes. The more they know about what he's done. And there's a lot more coming. He's got a lot of cases down the road coming.
Trump's
out.
upset.
He's got a whole range of issues he has to face. I don't know what the juries will do, but I do know he has a real problem. And so the fact that, could you ever think you heard any president say that I'm going to seek retribution? Do you ever hear any president say that I thought Hitler had some good ideas? What got me involved to run in the first place after my son had died, I decided in Iraq, because of Iraq, I said I wasn't going to run again until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People coming out of the woods carrying swastikas on torches, and singing the same anti-Semitic bile they sang when back in Germany.
Shark
and
Week.
And the young woman got killed. I spoke to the mother, and they asked him.
B-47.
What do you think of those
B-47.
people? The people the ones who got killed. the one who tried to stop it, and the ones he said, I think they're fine people on both sides. What American president would ever say, Nazis coming out of fields, carrying torches, singing the same anti-Semitic bile, carrying swastikas, were fine people? And this is a guy who says Hitler's done some good things. I'd like to know what they are. The good things Hitler's done, that's what he said. This guy has no sense of American
You sunk
democracy.
my battleship.
President Trump.
Jake, both of you know that story has been totally wiped out.
No,
because when you see the
it
sentence,
hasn't.
it said
We don't know that.
100%
Look at Joe.
exoneration on that story. He just keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate.
All
We're
those
trying to
years of
justify
experience.
His presidency, he's without question the worst president, the worst presidency in the history of our country. We shouldn't be having a debate about it. There's nothing to debate. He made up the Charlottesville story.
Apparently there's
and
a
you'll
lot
see
to
it's
debate.
debunked all over the place. Every reasonable anchor has debunked it. And just the other day it came out where it was fully debunked. It's a nonsense story.
It wasn't.
He
You
knows
said it
that,
on
and
film,
he didn't
stupid.
Run because of Charlottesville.
I know,
He
I
used that
get
as
it.
an excuse to run.
President Biden.
And debunked. It happened.
It happened.
All you have to do is listen to what was said at the time. And the idea that somehow that's the only reason I ran. I ran because I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected. If he thought they were good people coming out of that forest, carrying those woods, carrying those torches, then he didn't deserve to be president. Didn't deserve to be president at all. And the idea that he's talking about all this being fabricated. We saw it with our
SNL
own
just
eyes. We saw what
retired.
happened on January 6th. We saw the people breaking through the windows. We saw people occupying his own vice president. Look, there's a reason why 40 of his 44 top cabinet officers refused to endorse him this time. His vice president hasn't endorsed him this time. So why? Why? They know him well. They serve with him. Why are they not endorsing him?
Thank you, President Biden. We're going to be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate.
Ow, 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 ow. I'm gonna put the sound down. Oh my God. Wah, wah, wah. Oh my God, this is actually so much better. Why haven't we called it Tiki Gallows yet? Because it should. Like Peaky Blinders, it should be Tiki Gallows. Well, we'll just call them that. Maybe we'll just make up that name. Tiki Gallows. I'm going to be honest with you. I think this is going much better than I expected it to, which is great. And I'm not one for polls or debates, but sometimes they're helpful. And maybe for some voters, this will not be as stressful to them as we anticipated it would be. Joe is getting older. There is no doubt. But someone who has continued to fight for things that I believe are for a more perfect union, not realizing that not every president is perfect, and I want my president to do more. I am impressed with his command of the issues. I'm impressed with his little snarky remarks. I think that's the right thing to do. And I'm impressed with him, being in the moment of what is being said. And so people are going to think what they're going to think about Biden or Trump to some degree. But perhaps for those voters who are listening seriously to the issues and the information, they're seeing that there is not any substance under Trump, and there is more substance under Biden. So that is really, what I can say is the best outcome possible for any kind of debate. We all know that Trump's debate style has always been confrontational and kind of full of trickery and kind of bullshit, right? And just base behavior. And so it's hard to defend against base behavior. It just isn't, you end up trying to get lower or you stay higher. And either way, you're kind of fucked. So I think at the end of the day, it just isn't something that you're not going to win necessarily. Like, how many times have we really thought that a debate was won to the degree that, wow, it really showed us something we didn't know? You know what I mean? Usually it just reinforces what we already know or have seen. There hasn't been many surprises, I think, in debates, but maybe, it's in the moment. So at the same time, that happens. I'm you know, the thing about Joe Biden is that he has inclinations towards creating more of a thoughtful government that will respond to the needs of its constituents and all of its constituents. You know, I get the sense that Joe Biden is a president for everyone, even the people that don't like him. And that he will do things like, I was listening to something this morning about the cap on insulin for Medicare and how important that price cap is, right? And those things are real. Like when you change someone's life for the better through legislation and do things like change the outlay of cash every month, that is a real difference in people's lives. That is not fake. And that is something that I am looking for in a president.
In the second term.
I'm going to be quiet.
President Biden, while black unemployment dropped to a record low under your presidency, black families still earn far less than white families. Black mothers are still 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes, and black Americans are imprisoned at 5 times the rate of white Americans. What do you say to black voters who are disappointed that you haven't made more progress?
They acknowledge they made a lot of progress, number one. The fact of the matter is there's more small black businesses that have been started than any time in history. Number two, the wages of black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long, long time. Number three, we're providing housing for black Americans and dealing with the segregation that exists among these corporations that collude to keep people out of their houses. And in addition to that, we find that the impact on the choice that black families have to make relative to child care is incredibly difficult. When we did the first major piece of legislation in the past, I was able to reduce black child care costs. I cut them in half. We got to make sure we provide for child care costs. We got to make sure, because when you provide those child care protections, you increase economic growth because more people can be in the job market. So there's more to be done, considerably more to be done. But we've done a great deal so far, and I'm not letting up, and they know it.
You have 49 seconds left. What do you say to black voters who are disappointed with the progress so far?
I say I don't blame them for being disappointed. Inflation is still hurting them badly. For example, I provided for the idea that any black family first-time home buyer should get a $10,000 tax credit to be able to buy their first home so they can get started. I made sure that we're in a situation where all those black families and those black individuals who had to take out student loans that were ballooning, that if they were
student loans was big,
nursing,
people.
Anything having to do with volunteerism, if they paid their bills for 10 years on their student debt, all the rest is forgiven after 10 years. Millions have benefited from that. And we're going to do a whole lot more for black families.
Thank you, President Trump.
And he caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation, and he's right, it's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing black families and Hispanic families and just about everybody. It's killing people. They can't buy groceries anymore. They can't. You look at the cost of food where it's doubled and tripled and quadrupled. They can't live. They're not living anymore. He caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it with his Green New scam and all this money that's being thrown out the window. He
Honest
caused
Joe
inflation.
is the best Joe.
As sure as you're sitting there, the fact
1,800
is that
viewers.
His big kill on the black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking black jobs now, and it could be 18, it could be 19, and even 20 million people. They're taking black jobs, and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and you haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history.
Thank you. President Biden?
There was no inflation.
What was that word salad?
When I became president, you know why? The economy was flat on its back. 15% unemployment. He decimated the economy, absolutely decimated the economy. That's why there was no inflation. at the time. There were no jobs. We provided thousands of millions of jobs for individuals who are in all communities, including minority communities. We made sure that they have health insurance. We have covered, the ACA has increased. I made sure that they're $8,000 per
We need the
person in
House
family
and the Senate.
to get written off for
We need
healthcare.
all three
This
this
guy
fall.
wants to eliminate that. They tried 50 times. He wants to get rid of the ACA again, and they're going to try again if they win. You find ourselves in a position where the idea that we're not doing any, we put more police on the street than any administration has. He wants to cut the cops. We're providing for equity and making sure people have a shot to make it. There's a lot going on.
Pep.
But in inflation, he caused it by his tremendous malfeasance in the way he handled the pandemic.
Thank you. Another persistent challenge is the
Agreed.
climate crisis. 2023 was
Yes,
the
it is,
hottest
Claire.
year in
Oh my
recorded
God.
history,
Thanks for
and
bringing that
communities
up.
across
We had a
the
nice
country
little
are
talk about
confronting the
inflation this morning.
devastating effects of extreme heat, intensifying wildfires, stronger hurricanes, and rising sea levels. Former President Trump, you've vowed to end your opponent's climate initiatives, but will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
Well, let me just go back to what he said about the police, how close the police are to him. Almost every police group in the nation from every state is supporting Donald J.
Police
Trump.
unions are very
Almost
different
every
than police.
group.
Okay,
And what
very
he's
different.
done to the black population is horrible, including the fact that for 10 years he called them super predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we can't forget that. Super predators was his name, and he called it to them for 10, and they've taken great offense at it, and now they see it happening. But when they see what I did for criminal
they
justice
in the room
reform
right now,
and for the historically
Mr. Trump? Are
black,
they with you?
colleges and
Do you
universities
see any of
where I
them?
funded them and got them all funded, and the opportunity zones with Tim, as you know, Tim Scott was incredible. He did a great job, great senator from South Carolina. He came to me with the idea, and it was a great idea. It's one of the most successful economic development acts
It was
ever
Hillary.
in the country, opportunity zones. And the biggest beneficiary are blacks. And that's why we have the best numbers with them in maybe ever. They're saying ever. I read this morning where ever, the best numbers. He's lost much of the black population.
I mean,
because
post-slavery,
he's
of
done a horrible
course.
job for black people. He's also done a horrible job for Hispanics. But wait till you see these millions of people pouring into our country, and they're going to take the jobs, and it's already started, and you haven't seen anything yet. It's a disaster.
It's been 4 years, but you haven't seen anything yet.
Will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
So I want absolutely immaculate clean water, and I want absolutely clean air, and we had it. We had H2O. We had the best numbers ever, and we were using all forms of energy, all forms, everything. And yet, during my 4 years, I had the best environmental numbers.
Where is Herman
ever.
Cain?
And my top environmental people gave me that statistic just before I walked on the stage, actually.
The Zinky?
I don't know where
We
the
had
hell he's
water.
been. The idea that anything he said is true. I've passed the most extensive climate change legislation in history. We find ourselves, and by the way, black colleges. I came up with $15 billion for HBCUs, historic black universities and colleges, because they don't have those. They don't have the kind of contributors that they have to build these laboratories and the like. Any black student is capable
Endowments,
in college
that's
to do
right.
what any white student can do. They just have the money, but now they'll be able to get those jobs in high tech. We're in a situation where the
Thank you,
idea
Claire.
that
Project
he is
2025 removes the
claiming
EPA.
to have done
Yep.
something that had the cleanest water. He hadn't done a damn thing for the environment. He pulled out of the Paris Peace Accord, Climate Accord. I immediately joined it because if we reach 1.5 degrees Celsius,
He needs to talk about
at any one point,
deregulation.
there's no way back. The only existential threat to humanity is climate change, and he didn't do a damn thing about it. He wants to undo all that I've done.
The Paris Accord was going to cost us $1 trillion, and China nothing, and Russia nothing, and
Where-
India nothing.
where was that?
It was a ripoff of the United States.
Show me those numbers.
And I ended it because I didn't want to waste that money because they treat us horribly. We were the only ones. It was costing us money. Nobody else was paying into it, and it was a disaster. But everything that he said just now, I'll give you an example. I heard him say before insulin. I'm the one that got the insulin down for the seniors. I took care of the seniors.
No, you didn't.
What he's doing is destroying all of our medical programs because the migrants coming in, they want everybody. And look, I have the biggest heart on the stage. I guarantee you that. And I want to take care of people. But we're destroying our country. They're taking over our schools, our hospitals, and they're going to be taking over Social Security. He is destroying Social Security.
Are they going to pay into Social Security? Oh, wait, they already do. Oh, that's right.
The idea is
yes, that's right. They already do.
We were the only ones.
Oh, but they don't get it. They just pay into it. Okay, thank you.
Of the Paris Accord. How can we do anything? We've not able to. The United States.
Having an enlarged heart is not the biggest heart. Okay, but I'm tis.
Number one, we're making significant progress. By 2035, we will have cut pollution in half. We have made significant progress, and we're continuing to make progress. We set up a climate corps for thousands of young people will learn how to deal with climate
and catch up.
The Peace Corps, and we're moving in directions that are going to significantly change.
But it's a great one for Mountain Dew.
But the idea that he claims that he has the biggest heart up here and he's really concerned about pollution and about climate.
I'm here all week.
I've not seen any indication of that. And by the way, with regard to prescription drugs, one company agreed that they would reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for, one, voluntarily. I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company cannot have to pay.
Thank you.
And by the way,
so every day,
he's
millions
paying
of Americans struggle
attention.
just to
That's
make ends
sweet.
meet.
Look
For
at
many
Dana's like,
older
you're
Americans,
nice.
Social Security provides a critical lifeline. President Biden, if nothing is done to Social Security, seniors will see their benefits cut in just over 10 years. Will you name tonight one specific step that you're willing to take to keep Social Security
Tax
solvent?
the rich.
yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share.
Oh, bitch.
Right now, everybody making under $170,000 pays 6% of their income, of their paycheck, every single time they get a paycheck from the time the first one they get when they're 18 years old. The idea that they're going to, I'm proposing that everybody, they pay.
There is tremendous information coming through the chat.
1%. So no one I would not raise the cost of Social Security for anybody under $400,000. After that, I began to make the wealthy begin to pay their fair share by increasing from 1% beyond to be able to guarantee the program for life.
So you still have
Hello.
82 seconds
Sounds
left. Are
pretty
there any
fucking
other measures that you
reasonable
think that
to
would be
me.
able to help keep Social Security solvent, or is that one enough?
Well, no, that one enough will keep it solvent. But the
He
biggest
just
thing
said
we'll do
one.
if we defeat this man, because he wants to get rid of Social Security. He thinks there's plenty to cut in Social Security. He's wanting to cut Social Security and Medicare.
Does he live in the
both
future?
times. And that's what. And if you look at the program put forward by the House Republican caucus that
Oh, thank you, Dragon.
is in fact want to cut it as well. The idea that we don't need to protect our seniors is ridiculous. And by the way, the American public has greater health care coverage today than ever before. And on the ACA, as I said, you're in a circumstance where 400,000 people, 40 million people would not have insurance because they have a pre-existing condition. Only thing that allows them to have that insurance is the fact that they, in fact, are part
No,
of
he
the
texted that he
ACA.
won the election.
And by the way, the other thing is, we're in a situation where I talk about education for black communities. I've raised the amount of money for Pell Grants.
Does he need your money to keep winning?
Making under $70,000 a year are going to be able to get $15,000 toward their tuition. He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
So I've dealt with politicians all my life. I've been on this side of the equation for the last 8 years. I've never seen anybody lie like this guy. He lies. I've never seen it. He can look you in the face about so many other things, too. And we mentioned the laptop. We mentioned Russia, Ukraine. Everything
Russia's on there.
a lie. It's misinformation.
I'm really
and
good at this.
disinformation. The losers and suckers story that he made up is a total lie on the military. It's a disgrace. But Social Security, he's destroying it because millions of people are pouring into our country, and they're putting them onto Social Security. They're putting
And they're
them onto
paying
Medicare,
them?
Medicaid.
They're paying into
They're
Social
putting them in
Security?
our hospitals. They're taking the place of our citizens. What they're doing to the VA, to our veterans, is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the street, and these people are living in luxury hotels.
Are they? Oh, the Roosevelt is not a luxury hotel.
Really
Okay,
I've never seen such anger in our
I have
country
news
before.
for you.
President Biden?
Have you been in there
idea
recently?
veterans are not
That's
being taken care of.
34th and
I told you
7th.
before.
Is not
By the way,
luxury.
when I said suckers and losers, he said he acknowledged after that he fired that general. That general got fired because he's the one that acknowledged that that's what he said. He was the one standing with Trump when he said it. Number one. Number two, the idea that we're going to be in a situation where all these
He does, Teresa.
millions and millions, the way he talks about it, illegal aliens are coming into the country and taking away our jobs. There's a reason why we have the fastest growing economy in the world. The reason why we have the most successful economy in the world. We're doing better than any other nation in the world. And by the way, those 15 Nobel laureates he talked about being phony, those 15 Nobel laureates, economists, they all said that if Trump is reelected, we're likely to have a recession and inflation is going to increasingly go up. And by the way, worst president in history, 159 presidential scholars voted him the worst president in the history of the United States of America.
President Biden, thank you so much. Let's turn to the cost of child care, which many American families struggle to afford. President Trump, both you and President Biden have tried to address
Ask Trump
this
what
issue.
happens in 14
but the average
days.
cost of child care in this country has risen to more than $11,000
Where are you going to be on July
a year
11th?
per child. For many families, the cost of child care for 2 children is more than their rent. In your second term, what would you do to make
Thank you to
child care
everyone
more
on.
affordable?
We have 40 people on
the general got fired because
between
he was no
YouTube
good.
and
And
Twitch.
if he said that, that's
and
why he
then
made
we have
it up. But we have 19 people
1,840
that said I
viewers
didn't say it,
total.
and
We have
they're very
1,800
highly
viewers
respected,
on
much
Twitter.
more so than him.
Hi everyone.
The other thing is, he doesn't fire people.
Media literacy and check
He
your
never
voter
fired
registration,
people.
please.
I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire a lot. I fired Comey because he was no good. I fired a lot of the top people at the FBI, drained the swamp. They were no good.
What
Not
about
easy
Ray?
To fire people. You'd pay a price for it, but they
Oh,
were no good.
yeah,
I
July
inherited these
1st.
people. I
3
didn't put him-
pens.
I didn't put Comey there. He was no good. I fired him. This guy hasn't fired anybody. He never fires. He should have fired every military man that was involved with that the Afghanistan horror show, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. He didn't fire. Did you fire anybody?
What did you do to set that up?
Anybody that's on the border?
Did you do anything to
that's
set
allowed us
that
to have
up?
the worst border
What
in the
was your
history of the world?
involvement
Did
in
anybody
that
get fired for
pullout?
allowing 18 million people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions? Did you fire?
No, why did
anybody
you
that
call all
allowed
the
our country
congressmen
to
and
be
ask them to
destroyed?
not vote for the
Joe, our
bipartisan
country
border
is
bill?
being destroyed
Sir.
as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate.
So what about it?
This shouldn't be a debate. He is the worst president. He just said about me
I'm
because
the
I
worst
said it.
president.
But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country. Now all of a sudden he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing deal, and it reduced it a little bit, like this much. It's insignificant. He wants open borders. He wants our country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people as voters.
Who had the
And I
Taliban?
don't think
Who invited
we
the
just can't
Taliban
let
to
it
Camp
happen.
David?
If he wins this election, our country doesn't have a chance, not even a chance, of coming out of this rut. We probably won't have a country left anymore.
coming
That's how
out of
bad
the
it is.
rut.
He is the worst in history by far.
That's what we're doing.
Thank you, President Trump.
No,
President
he's
Biden?
probably
We're
the
most
best,
admired
actually.
country in the world.
Sorry,
We're the
I'm
United
just
States of
being
America.
objectively
There's
true,
nothing
obvious
beyond our
about this.
capacity. We have the finest military in the history of the world, the finest in the history of the world. No one thinks
Yes,
we're weak.
GP.
No one wants to screw around with us. Nobody. Number one. Number two, the idea that we're talking about worst presidents. I wasn't joking. Look it up. Go online. 159 or 58, don't hold me the exact number, presidential historians, they've had meetings and they voted who's the worst president in American history. One through best to worst. They said he was the worst in all of American history.
Sorry. Fucking C-SPAN. Are you really serious, C-SPAN? I'll never buy anything at your fucking store. Holy bitch kittens! C-SPAN? Kiss my methered loving fucking ass. Fuck you, C-SPAN.
Good evening and welcome to
What is-
C-SPAN's coverage of
what's
the first
happened?
presidential debate of the
What's
2024
happened?
election. A view from tonight in
What-
Atlanta. in
what
the
just
spin
fucking
room,
happened?
Where supporters of the candidates
just
are
fucking
already
happened?
gathering to talk to the media. In an hour, President Biden and former President
What the
Trump will
fuck?
face off in a debate for the first time since the 2020 election.
What just
Tonight's
happened?
debate, hosted by CNN and simulcasted here on the C-SPAN networks.
What?
Before the debate begins tonight, we want
Bitch! What the fuck? I am so sorry. Ugh.
On middle-class people. I said I'd never raise a tax on anybody making less than $400,000. I didn't. But this tariff is 10% tariffs. Everything coming in the country, you know what the economists say? That's going to cost the average American $2,500 a year more because they're going to have to pay the difference in food and all the things that we're importing. Number two, he's in a situation where he talks about how he has not raised.
Okay.
He somehow helped the middle class.
Thanks, Gal.
Middle class have been devastated by you. Now you want a new tax cut of $5 trillion over the next 10 years, which is going to fundamentally bankrupt the country. You had the largest deficit of any president in American history, number one. Number two, you have not, in fact, made any contact, any progress with China. We are the lowest trade deficit with China since 2010.
Thank you, President Biden.
You lost
Thank you, President Biden. Let's discuss an epidemic impacting millions of Americans that both of you have made a top priority in your first term, the opioid crisis. And for both of you, the number of overdose deaths in this country has gone up. Under your term, it went up. Under your term, it has gone up. Former President Trump, despite the efforts that both of you have made, more than 100,000 Americans are dying from overdoses every year, primarily from fentanyl and other opioids. What will you do to help Americans right now in the throes of addiction who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
To finish up, we now have the largest deficit in the history of our country under this guy. We have the largest deficit with China. He gets paid by China. He's a Manchurian candidate. He gets money from China. So I think he's afraid to deal with them or something.
What did Ivanka get?
You notice he never took.
What did she get from China?
Because we bring in so much money with the tariffs.
Thank you, Gal. I love you.
He never took them away.
I have the best friends ever.
It's too much money. It's tremendous, and we saved our steel industry.
Did his tummy just growl?
More to come, but he hasn't done that.
Did his tummy just growl?
Cut the tariffs because he can't, because it's too much money. But he's got the largest deficit in the history of our country, and he's got the worst situation with China. China's going to own us if you keep allowing them to do what they're doing to us as a country. They are killing us as a country, Joe, and you can't let that happen. You're destroying our country.
So, President Trump, you have 67 seconds left. The question was, what are you going to do to help Americans in the throes of addiction right now who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Jake, we were doing very well at addiction until the COVID came along. We had the 2.5, almost 3 years of like nobody's ever had before, any country, in every way.
Really? What were the stats?
Tough, and it was the drugs pouring across the border it started to increase. We got great equipment. We bought the certain dog that's the most incredible thing that you've ever seen, the way they can spot it. We did a lot, and we were getting very low numbers.
What the hell?
Very, very low numbers. Then
what are you doing for Americans who are addicted to opioids? Sir, this is a Wendy's. Do you want a Frosty with that?
It's even low because the gotaways, they don't even talk about gotaways. But the numbers of the amount of drugs and human trafficking in women coming across our border, the worst thing I've ever seen, at numbers that nobody's ever seen under him because the border's so bad. But
we don't know the numbers because
coming across our border now
they're sneaking in,
the
but
largest we've ever had
probably big.
President Trump, thank you. President
probably
Biden.
Big.
Fentanyl and the byproducts of fentanyl went down for a while. And I wanted to make sure we use the machinery that can detect fentanyl. These big machines that roll over everything that comes across the border. And it costs a lot of money. That was part of this deal we put together, this bipartisan deal.
Thank you.
More fentanyl machines, more
I should have done that.
Able to detect drugs.
Bipartisan
more
border deal.
Of agents, more numbers of all the people at the border. And when we had that deal done, he called his Republican colleagues, said, don't do it. It's going to hurt me politically. No, he never argued it's not a good deal.
I'm so happy.
We need those machines. We need those machines. And we're coming down very hard in every country in Asia.
I've been saying that.
Precursors for fentanyl, and Mexico is
He's saying what I've been saying.
They don't have the technology to be able to put it together. That's what we have to do. We
Thank
need
you, J. Rance.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, and again, the question is about
Where's Ivan
Americans in the
fentanyl?
throes of addiction
Thank
right now,
you.
struggling to
Thank
get
you,
the treatment
Jay.
they
You
need.
don't have to do that.
Because this does pertain to it. He ended remain in Mexico. He ended catch and release. I made it catch and release in Mexico, not catch and release here. We had so many things that we had done, hard negotiations with Mexico, and I got it all for nothing. It's just like when you have a hostage. We always pay $6 billion.
Please say that Mexico gave you soldiers. Please say
Now
Mexico gave you soldiers. Please say that Mexico gave us soldiers.
I think a good guy, and he's over there because Putin is laughing at this guy, probably asking for billions of dollars for the reporter. I will have him out very quickly as soon as I take office. Before I take office, I said,
why don't you do it now? Wouldn't that be a great thing to do before the election?
I will have that reporter out. He should have had him out a long time ago. But Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy pays it every time. We had 2 cases. We paid $6 billion for 5 people.
Oh, remember the guy from North Korea?
And I paid essentially
I don't know.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
He paid nothing for people. Isn't that something to be proud of?
President Biden, you would be 86 at the end of your second term. How do you address concerns about your capability to handle the toughest job in the world well into your 80s?
Well, first of all, I spent half my career being criticized being the youngest person in politics. I was the second youngest person ever elected to the United States Senate, and now I'm the oldest. This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent. I think that just look at the record. Look at what I've done. Look how I've turned around the horrible situation he left me. As I said, 15 million new jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs, more investment in America, over billions of dollars in private investment in enterprises that we are growing. By the way, we brought an awful lot of people, the whole idea of computer chips. We used to have 40% of the market. We invented those chips, and we lost it because he was sending people to find the cheapest jobs overseas and to bring home a product. So I went to South Korea. I convinced Samsung to invest billions of dollars here in the United States. And guess what? Those fabs, they call that to build these chips, those fabs pay over $100,000. You don't need a college degree for them. And there's billions, about $40 billion already being invested and being built right now in the United States, creating significant jobs for Americans from all over the world.
President Biden, you have 40 seconds left. Would you like to add
That's
anything?
a real thing, people.
The idea that somehow...
That's a fucking result. That's a result, bitches.
I never heard a president talk like this before.
Vote for results.
We're the envy of the world. Name me a single major country president who wouldn't trade places with the United States of America for all our problems and all our opportunities. We're the most progressive country in the world in getting things done. We're the strongest country in the world. We're a country in the world who keeps our word, and everybody trusts us. All of our allies and those who he coddles up to from Kim
And it
Jong-un,
prepares us for the next pandemic.
Putin, et cetera. They don't want to screw around with us.
Thank you. Former President Trump, to follow up, you would be 82 at the end of your second term. What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them, both of them, as you know.
Yes!
We made it public. He took none. I'd like to see him take one, just one, a real easy one. Like go through the first 5 questions. He couldn't do it. But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year. And, you know,
Dr. Ronna Jackson.
That I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior. 2 regular club championships.
Really?
To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced them.
Can you say it again?
Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then
Dr.
I took another
Ambien.
One, a similar one. And
I just like Ambien and Jack. Pull out the bike, Joe. That's right. Give me coffee. Pull out the fucking bike.
He is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200.
All right. It doesn't matter.
Anyway, just take a look at what he says he is. And take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6.
Listen, guys, I don't need you to play. I don't need you to play golf.
Carry your own bag.
Move on.
Think you can do it?
Move on.
That's the biggest lie that he's a 6 handicap of all.
I was
my
an 8
God.
handicap.
Yeah.
8.
Never.
But I had,
Stop.
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Let's
Let's not
how
act
many
like
rounds-
children.
President Trump, we're going to
21
turn
Let's not act like children.
You
to
are
a
a child.
specific concern that voters have about you.
Oh my
Will you
God.
pledge tonight that once all legal challenges have been exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins?
That was so stupid.
And you will say right now that political violence in any form is unacceptable.
Well, I shouldn't have to say that, but of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden, you would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to, and I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol, and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility, not mine. She said that loud and clear. But the answer is, if the election is fair, free, and I want that more than anybody. And I'll tell you something.
His upper lip
I
is
wish he was a great
sweating.
president, because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one of my many places enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment because I wouldn't have been his political opponent, because he indicted me because I was his opponent. I wish he was a great president. I would rather have that. I wouldn't be here. I don't mind being here. But the only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president that I'm going to make America great again. We're going to make America great again. We're a failing nation right now. We're a seriously failing nation. And we're a failing nation because of him. His policies are so bad.
He didn't win the first
policies
time.
Are insane. They're insane. These are wars that
Popular
will never
vote.
end with him. He will drive us into World War III, and we're closer to World War III than anybody can imagine. We are very, very close to World War III, and he's driving us there. And Kim
Wow.
Jong-un, and President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these, Putin, they don't respect him. They don't fear him. They have nothing going with this gentleman, and he's going to drive us into World War III.
They got nothing no chemistry.
You want a World War III, let him follow and win, and let Putin say, do what you want, NATO. Just do what you want. There's a thing called Article 5. An attack on one is an attack on all, and required response. The idea, I can't think of a single major leader in the world who wouldn't trade places with the job I've done and what they've done. Because we are a powerful nation. We have wonderful people. It's because of the people, not me. It's because of the American people. They're capable of anything, and they step up when they're needed. And right now, we're needed. We're needed to protect the world because our own safety is at stake. And again, you want to have a war, just let Putin go ahead and take Kyiv, make sure they move on, see what happens in Poland, Hungary, and other places along that border. Then you have a war.
President Trump, as I come back to you for a follow-up, the question was, will you accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins?
Just to finish what he said, if I might, Russia, they took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing from Trump, nothing. He knew not to do it. He's not going to play games with me. He knew that. I got along with him very well, but he knew not to play games. He took nothing from me. But now he's going to take the whole thing from this man right here. That's a war that should have never started. It would have never started ever with me. And he's going to take Ukraine. And, you know, you asked me a question before, would you do this with? He's got us in such a bad position right now with Ukraine and Russia, because Ukraine's not winning that war. He said, I will never settle until such time. They're running out of people. They're running out of soldiers. They've lost so many people. It's so sad. They've lost so many people, and they've lost those gorgeous cities with the golden domes that are 1,000 years old, all because of him and stupid decisions. Russia would have never attacked if I were
President Trump,
president.
the question was, will you
But they
accept
wanted the
results
land.
of the election, regardless of who wins? Yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these But the fraud and everything else was ridiculous.
No,
And
it
we'll
wasn't
have a
actually.
news
What's your
conference
data?
on it in a week.
What's your data,
Or we'll
bitch?
have another one of these in a week.
Really?
But I will
Really?
absolutely. There's nothing I'd rather
He
do.
won't.
It would be much
The answer is
easier
no.
for me to do that than I'm running again. I wasn't really going to run until I saw the horrible job he did. He's destroying our country.
He
I
was
would
going
be
to run
very
all the
happy to be
time.
someplace
All the
else, in a
time. He
nice
wants what's in the
location
domes. Those
someplace.
beautiful
And
golden
again,
domes. Never mind
no
the people in the
indictments,
domes.
no
Fuck the
political
people.
opponent stuff, because it's the only way
The
he
golden
thinks he can win.
domes.
But unfortunately, it's driven up my numbers and driven them up to a very high level because the people understand it.
Well, let's see what your numbers are when this election is over. Let's see. You're a whiner. When you lost the first time, you continued.
Oh, he's kind of mad.
Appeal to courts all across the country. Not one single court in America said any of your claims had any merit, state or local, none. But you continue to provoke this lie about somehow there's all this misrepresentation, all this stealing. There is no evidence of that at all. And I tell you what, I doubt whether you'll accept it because you're such a whiner. The idea, if you lose again, you accepting anything?
Ben, you know fuck all about Russia or Ukraine. Get the fuck out of here. Goodbye.
We'll be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate live from Georgia.
Let me go ahead and, yeah. Come on. Don't. Oh my God, Becky. Thank you. Let me go ahead. How's everyone doing on their bingo? Come on. What are you guys doing on the bingo? How you doing? Everybody got their bingos? Everybody hammered? Everybody hammered at this point? We have 1,900 viewers across all platforms. Oh my God. Ooh, I'm so happy everyone's here. I know everybody's mad at me. Everyone's mad. CNN's going to be mad at me, blah, blah, blah. We had a breakdown with C-SPAN, so everybody can just F off. I'm going to see, actually, if C-SPAN came back, in case it's back. Oh, wow, 504. That's a terrible error. That's a terrible error. Yeah, live, bitch. I just want to get it queued up in case. We might as well. No.
We'll welcome them into a great
Okay,
national
hold on.
crusade.
All right, we'll go back to our nice little picture here, but actually we're going to sit on here just for a minute because then we won't, less chance of getting stricken. Yeah, I know, CNN's going to be mad at me. That's okay. I'll take it. This is a public service. And we almost have 2,000 viewers, which means there's more eyes on media literacy and original sources and hearing it from the source. And let me tell you what I'm hearing, folks, because you've joined me as the hostess with the mostess. First of all, let's talk about results, because I think a great reason to vote for a president is to... Quick, tell a joke. Well, no. Artichokes, 3 for $1. That's the punchline. So, getting results is really important and something that I want my president to get results, especially if those results are good for lots of people in this country. And I can't think of anything better than focusing on things like ensuring we have chips and other things here in this country so that when we have a pandemic the next time, because guess what? Pandemics do happen, right? So when we have a pandemic next time, I would like our country to have the capability to mitigate the effects of a pandemic, i.e. equipment that we need, life-saving equipment that can be produced in this country, so that during emergencies, we're not subject to supply chain disruptions as we were. I would like a president who is planning for that and responding to it versus the guy who told us to shoot bleach up our asses or put a light bulb in our ass. Okay? So for this particular choice that you all are facing today, there really is only one clear choice. And no, it's not RFK. Where's RFK? He's not here because he has a worm in his brain. Okay? He has a worm, an actual worm in his brain. So no, I'll take the shuffly guy who stutters. All right? I'll take the shuffly guy who stutters because he's actually doing things that benefit humanity here in this country, right? And a healthier country is a healthier world. So there's that.
Coin toss. We're going to begin with you, President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
Okay. Oops.
We've made significant progress from the debacle that was left by President Trump in his last term. We find ourselves in a situation where, number one, we have to make sure that we have a fair tax system. I ask anyone out there in the audience or anyone out watching this debate, do you think the tax system is fair? The fact is that I said nobody even making under $400,000 had a single penny increase in their taxes and will not. And if I'm reelected, that'll be the case again. But this guy has increased your taxes because of the deficit, number one. He's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic. And he finds himself in a position where he now wants to tax you more by putting a 10% tariff on everything that comes into the United States of America. What I did, when, for example, he wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies. Well, guess what? We got it down to $35 for insulin instead of $400. No more than $2,000 for every senior, no matter how much prescription they need. You know what that did? That reduced the federal debt.
I have a medicine that's $7,000 a month.
$160 billion over 10 years.
On Medicare. $7,000 a month.
We're going to make that available to every senior all along.
He's doing a good thing.
And
he's doing good things.
He wants to get rid of that. I'm going to make sure that we have child care. We're going to significantly increase the credit people have for child care. I'm going to make sure we do something about what we're doing on lead pipes and all the things that are causing health problems for people across the country. We're going to continue to fight to bring down inflation and give people a break.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, you now have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Like so many politicians, this man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything. All he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions and millions of people to pour in. Our military doesn't respect him. We look like fools in Afghanistan. We didn't stop Israel. It was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened.
We didn't stop Israel?
Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, they couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, for terror, no money whatsoever. Again, Ukraine should have never happened. He talks about all this stuff, but he didn't do it. For 3.5 years, we're living in hell. We have the Palestinians and we have everybody else rioting all over the place. You talk about Charlottesville. This is 100 times Charlottesville, 1,000 times. The whole country is exploding because of you, because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you throughout the world. What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations
train derailments in history.
But he's
wait a
putting
minute.
a lot of those regulations back on. All of the things that we've done, nobody's never seen anything like. Even from a medical standpoint, right to try, where we can try space-age materials instead of going to Asia or going to Europe and trying to get when you're terminally ill. Now you can go and you can get something. You sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years.
What?
But you know what we did for the military was incredible choice for our soldiers, where our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves.
I don't think this is actually true. Can anyone confirm that? I don't think the VA, you can't just call another doctor if you don't want to wait. I really don't think that's true.
All of these things, we're in a failing nation, but it's not going to be
I don't think that's true. This guy is a felon. He's under indictment for additional felonies, including incitement of the attack of the Capitol and refusal to return classified materials. That's it.
Anderson Cooper and Aaron Burnett starts now on CNN.
All right. Wonderful. Oh, wait. Let's see if everybody comes out. Where's all the people? Hey, wasn't he going to say who his VP is? Who's his fucking VP? Who's the frickin' VP? Who's the frickin' VP? I'm sorry,
and
Karen.
That's a wrap. The first presidential debate of the 2024 election cycle is in the books.
Who's
President Biden
his?
and former President
He
Trump
did closing. They just did
addressing
closing
several
remarks
issues tonight with moderators Jake Tapper
They just
and
did.
Dana Bash. The economy.
It was 2 minutes.
Immigration, foreign policy.
Okay.
And abortion.
Okay, well, whatever. Anyway, Trump should be in prison. Yeah, so he will be next week. No, the 11th, July 11th. Well, I don't know. We didn't hit all the bingo squares. I'm gonna say I know there's a couple bingos that didn't come up tonight. Yeah, Trump's closing statement was literally an attack. Literally just an attack. And that's it. That's all he could do. Kind of crazy if you think about that. It's over. Yeah. Gal got a text. I got a text. Yeah. Are you happy with your bingo? I hope everyone was able to fill up at least some of their bingo cards. And I hope that you're not, no one is too inebriated after this thing. I'm going to say, yeah, of course, everybody could use a little Mountain Dew. I'm going to tell you right now, though, I think Joe won. And I don't think I don't know. I think I heard a couple of bingos, Claire, but I'm not entirely sure that those were real bingos. Someone might have been lying. I mean, this is the honor system. So, there is that. Yeah, the whole day. There was nothing there. There was nothing there. Yeah. You're shocked that Tino did not debate in good faith. Well, I think it's just interesting that for all the blow up that they were doing, MAGA World was doing a lot of blow up about this event and that Trump would be really on his game and you spilled Zima on your card. Fuck yeah, Jen. Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. I fucking love that too. You were so close. Gosh, maybe better luck next time. We will definitely do that again. We should probably have some people actually playing bingo on screen as we're watching though. A VA allows you to use a private provider. It does, Michael. So that's something that's true. Okay, that's good to know. I mean, I think that my dad was in the VA and I think you could definitely get outside doctors, but I think you had to first go through the VA and it wasn't just about you couldn't get your appointment in time, but I could be totally wrong about that. And of course, my dad died a little bit ago. I know, Trump is so nauseating. Now I want a Zima. God damn it. Do they have alcohol-free Zimas? Is there an alcohol-free Zima? All right. I know for a fact, I think, what time is it? 7:42. I know for a fact that I think RadPod is on. So I'm going to go ahead and say, oh my God, thank you. We got up to 1,951 sets of eyeballs on this broadcast. We are at 1951. That we have 37 here on YouTube and Twitch. And the reason I'm so happy about that is because that means more people are accessing media literacy and our attempt to bring you the news directly from the sources, from the horses' asses or their mouths, depending on who you're talking about. And also enjoy a little bit of jokes and, a little bit of joke, a little bit of humor, some music and all that kind of stuff. Thanks for the hearts. I love you guys. So I'll see you tomorrow morning. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow morning on Lolo's Lounge for Wake and Bake with Lolo. So please don't forget. And then tomorrow night is our weekly Lolo's Lounge, same channel here, also on Twitter. And we play trivia, spaced out trivia, and we just wrap up the week together. So thank you all, the people who donated. Oh my God, you're the most amazing people in the world, and I love you so much. And you really have just given me everything by coming tonight and all the stuff that you've done for me and for the channel. So thank you so much. This was a great event, and it was so much easier with you guys in my soul. No. Oh, anyway. Okay. We're going to go out and I'm going to take you out with a little bit of Daily Down Lolo because I just like the song. I think the song's pretty cool. So, all right. I love you guys. I'll see you later. Goodbye.
up the status quo.